So anytime you're going to lead, you're going to come across moments in time when those you lead are not as cohesive as they should be, whether or not they are a diverse group of people or a non-diverse group of people in the modern sense of the word diverse, right? Because if you really mean diversity, every group of people is diverse. It's just how diverse, and how do you mark diversity, right? Is it diversity of thought? Is it diversity of hair color? Is it diversity of height? Is it all of that? Is it none of that? A lot of times when we talk about diversity, we're talking about one specific thing and not the actual term. So one thing leaders have to do is always define what they mean. It's part of the clarity of the message. If your people do something wrong because they interpreted it incorrectly, and it was like an honest mistake, not a CNN Donald Trump, I intentionally misunderstood you mistake. If it was an honest mistake, it's always the leader's fault. If you tell them to go here and do this, and they mess that up, it's probably because you weren't clear enough, and you did not have the best. You weren't using the proper definitions, right? T. So, leaders sometimes will find themselves needing to build cohesion in a group. You can do that two major ways. One way is by having a unifying vision that people can rally behind. You need to use symbolic leadership behind that unified vision. Great example of this is the United States. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You raise the American flag. The American flag stands for liberty and freedom. Everyone knows that. That's why anytime people are protesting in foreign nations that are oppressive, you see the American flag everywhere. Well, it's not because they think we're a racist, bigoted state. It's because they know that the American flag, globally, everybody understands this. The people who know this understands for freedom and liberty. And so, when you that's a very good way of doing it. It's the way most Christians will choose and probably should choose. It gives you a lot more ability to do things properly. Now, a higher level leader, a level 2 leader, someone who's willing to play in the dark arts a little bit, will understand the need for a straw man or the devil character. And that is when you vilify someone or something in order to create cohesion in your group. You create an external pressure to solidify. So if it were in a church and your church was having a rough time and people are fighting and all of that, you pull up a straw man, you pull up the devil, and you say, they're fighting us, we've got to come together. It's us versus them. That's where we are. And that creates a very strong core. Puts external pressure, and external pressure brings people together. Is one of the problems I see in the United States now, is because I don't believe in tribalism. I think it's a horrible thing. I hate the concept of intersectionality, simply because at some point, tribalism takes over the whole country. Think about this. I'm not going to tell you where it's going. I want you to think about this. If you force everybody into tribes, what are the consequences of those tribes? Well, it all depends on how you divide people. Right now, we're doing our best to divide people based on race. That's a horrible idea. Horrible idea. As Christians, we absolutely reject that. You're Christian first. You are everything else second. Even American second. You're a Christian first. And so that is one of the most interesting things about happening right now. But you're seeing it, right? You're seeing it. Okay, there's the straw man. That's what we fight. We fight this idea, and then we personify this idea in an individual. Saul Alinsky did this in somewhere up north, as Michigan or Wisconsin or somewhere up there, where he was trying to rally people together for a cause, some labor union cause, and he decided to vilify one of the local politicians, and the local politician was a good person. Saul Alinsky admitted this was a good person. There was nothing wrong with him. He actually wanted to help. The problem was him wanting to help did not unify people, and so he went up there and basically called this man evil and pushed and did everything he could to turn this poor helpless guy into the enemy, and he succeeded. And he ended up having 500 people show up to his office spitting mad, you're the devil, you're a bad person, fighting him, and he's shocked and mortified. But Saul Alinsky got done what he was trying to get done. And he says the ends justify the means. So Saul Alinsky, if you haven't realized, he's a bad man. But he knows something about leadership. And that is, oftentimes anger and hatred will cause people to do more of an action than love and good. You can motivate people out of hate and fear a lot faster than you can motivate people out of peace and love. It's the way things is. It's sad, but that's true. And so what happens a lot of times in local churches, they're against us. The world's against us. You need that to solidify. You've just got to make sure that you don't. Part of the blowback from that is if you use this method to unify a congregation or unify a group, part of the problem is that the gospel demands that you go out and interact with the world and spread the gospel. And if you create too hard of a us versus them break, people will not go out and influence the culture. The salt will lose its ability to season, to preserve. So it's a fine balance. People need to understand that the world is hostile to Christianity, but here's our symbol, and this is how we go forward. And it's that fine balancing tool. If you get too much of the straw man, your congregation will not go out and will not engage in the world Christ-like. You see this in that crazy church in the Midwest, right? I forget which one it is, but they just they're so hateful, and the reason is they've been strawmanned to death to the point where they cannot go out and engage the world in a Christ-like way. On the flip side are the churches that are just, you can't tell a difference between them and the world. They're just, you're secular, you're Christian, you're secular, you're Christian. There is no distinction. That's also really bad. So leaders, it's a balancing game. You need a balance between knowing what is, having a good vision with symbolic leadership, and understanding that sometimes you need that straw man type thing. You need that personification of something to resist, something that is coming at you, something that is pushing. So if you can do that as a leader, then it'll really help your cause.